Katrien Passig and Jan Kino Jansen. Katrien Passig is an author, and many of you would probably know her best from her online collaborative publishing project, the Technik Tagebuch. And Jan Kino is a journalist for Heise Online and for CT. And he recently experienced the void in Utah, which he will probably go into in more detail during the discussion, and which I'm very excited to hear more about. During the discussion, we're going to have a sort of protocol on a shared pirate pad, which later, towards the end of the discussion, when we'll come to a sort of section where we'll sort of prophesize a little on what might happen with VR and AR and MR in the near future and in the distant future. And everybody in the audience and everybody in the space is welcome to log on to the pirate pad and add their own prophecies and projections. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to ask everybody who's upstairs, or invite everybody upstairs to come down and join in the discussion and the Q&A session after the talk. So thank you very much. I'll pass it on to the speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There it is. So do you want to talk about the void first, or maybe what was your first, what was the moment when you realized that something interesting was happening in virtual reality? Do you remember your first time?
I remember my first time, I definitely remember my first time I saw the first Oculus Rift prototype at CES 2013. Parma Lucky, the guy who founded Oculus, showed this prototype which was held by duct tape only. It was like a clump of duct tape and it looked like nothing. And I was like, what was that? And he put it on my face, and from the first second, I was blown away. And from that moment, I knew that that this topic will follow me for the following years, because it was so immersive. And that was my first experience. And then what's interesting, I think, is that in tech is very, very fast business. But I think especially with virtual reality, it's so amazingly fast that when you've seen virtual reality experiences, I don't know, 3 months ago, they're way worse than the ones they do now, because it's like blazing fast progress.
I think the technical progress is blazing fast once you are in that business or know people who let you use their gear, but when you're not, it's really very slow. For me, the first time was exactly 2 years ago at Republica 2014, when some guy just had an Oculus Rift and let everyone who wanted try it for about a minute, and there was a long queue forming. And
always is.
The
with
poor
reality.
guy had wanted to go to dinner, but everyone said, no, just let me try it. And so everyone got to experience a very short roller coaster ride. And I wasn't quite blown away. It was interesting, but not that interesting. And only about 1.5 years ago, when I was in Zurich, I tried Birdly. Do you have to?
Yeah.
I think it's the second picture in the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know,
it
looks quite stupid from the outside. So you're on this thing, and but it looks a lot less stupid from the inside, because you're a bird and you flap your wings and you fly around in San Francisco, and that was what blew me away, because it was extremely awesome, and that was the moment when I realized that something really big is happening here, and I can't wait for these things to be everywhere.
And did you have this feeling when you did this? Did you immediately have that feeling? Okay, this is not going to go away. This will be a thing.
Definitely. I imagine people must have felt that way in the early 1900s when they first went to a cinema and saw one of the first 3-minute movies that look extremely boring to us today, but must have been quite fascinating back then.
Yeah. And what puzzled me is about VR that you know that you're in safety in a way, like in Berlin at Kühlhaus or something, but when you put the goggles on, something in your brain thinks that it's real, but it really thinks it. Because this loop shows me when I'm playing a demo where the ground is opening, and if people are using this, are watching this demo, and you tell them just go one step further, they can't do that, and you can see that in the video that I'm trying to walk through it because I know that it's okay. I'm in a safe place, and I think this is for me the power of VR.
I noticed that upstairs 2 days ago there's a VR experience. I think it's still there. You can try it. It's a bit like Monument Valley, the game, if you know that, or an MC Escher picture where when you walk over the edge of your world, the whole world tilts and you're now walking on that surface. And it wasn't so bad, so I didn't get seasick or anything, but I noticed after a couple of minutes that my feet started to hurt because I was trying to, no, that was actually the other experience, one where the ground drops away under your feet as well, and I did not want to move my feet at all. And I realized that in any normal standing situation, you always shift your weight around and you take little steps, and I did not do that for 5 minutes until my feet started to hurt.
But it's because you know that it's not real. You know it, but you just, something in your subconsciousness or something is really believing this and shitty computer graphics because the quality is not
it's
not
really
very
not
good.
very impressive.
Yeah.
And I was there with a friend 3 days ago upstairs, and it was her first experience with VR, and after the first couple of seconds she just took off the whole gear and screamed. And
I know that,
when she put it back on, I had to first hold her hand, and that wasn't enough, so I had to hold her just so she felt sort of safe in that situation.
So weird. And this is something completely different than VR cinema, not VR cinema, 3D cinema. Some journalist colleagues of mine, they always write something like 3D glasses for VR glasses, but it's really something completely different compared to 3D cinema. You would say that as well, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. And we were talking about the void, and the void is, of course, like the monumental VR thing at the moment, because I think the first VR experiences you only was seeing stuff, and then there were experiences where you can interact with your hands with stuff, and now the third step was that you were able to walk around in VR in real life, and these movements were translated into VR. But the next step is that things you see in VR, like a table or a chair or a lantern or something, that you really are able to interact with that. So they mapped the reality, or mapped the computer graphics to the reality, and that's what the Void is doing. That you get your glasses on, and then they tell you now you...
I think you need to explain, because I had never heard of the Void till I got the invitation to this talk, so I think you have to explain what it actually is.
Okay. The Void is, it's some startup in Utah near Salt Lake City, and it resides in a regular strip mall at the moment because it's not finished. They are still in like alpha phase or something, but there's the only place where you can try it out, and they are developing the Void there, and the Void it's called mapped reality. They do like rooms, like theme park. Is it a theme park ride? I don't know. It's a room where you can, and the room looks like nothing in reality, but when you put your VR goggles on, then everything in the room is mapped to VR. So
do you have any pictures in your presentation?
no,
that we can see?
I don't have any, because you are not allowed to take any pictures, and
not even from the outside?
It's because it's just a room in a building. So it's absolutely non-spectacular. The room looks like a storage room or something. But when you put on the goggles, you're in a white room, like in the Matrix or something, and then they tell you you can go through the door, and then you physically go through a door, and then you're in this like Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider style computer game, where you can actually walk through the dungeon, and the walls look like Inca or Mayan temples, how they look like. And when you go to the wall, you can touch the walls, and the walls are exactly in the position you would expect them in reality. And then you realize, okay, I'm in a computer game. That's kind of the most amazing feelings I ever had in my life. And then only the walls. And then the guy who was walking me through there said there was a real throne, like a Mayan throne or something for a king or something. And then he told me, do you want to sit on the throne? And I said, yeah, but it's computer graphics. I can't sit on there. And then, no, try it. And then I sat, and there was only a simple bench. It wasn't a throne in real life, but where I sat was in exactly the same place like in the computer game, and I was really like, my heart was beating, and I was really like, that couldn't be. And then the most amazing thing was that the guy, that I saw a torch on in the Mayan temple, there are torches on the wall, of course, you know that from computer games. And he said, do you want to take the torch? And I said, what? Yes. And then I took the torch, and in reality, it was only a stick with some tracker thingies on it. But I really had that torch in my hand, and when I moved my hand, it lights up.
It changed the illumination of your surroundings.
And that was just absolutely amazing.
Do you realize that we are right now in a situation that basically no one has been in for the last, 200 years? That we need you to describe this experience, that we don't have any pictures to show, we don't have video, that all we have is your story.
Yeah.
I think since I think people even would have brought a painter to that to that expedition to a foreign continent, and then would have had some paintings to show.
Yeah, we were joking at our publishing house that this is a new job, virtual reality explainer, because it's really difficult to because you can't take videos of it. I think I could have shown a video where I walk through there, but you don't see what I see. And when I just showed you this thing with when there was a hole in the ground, and it didn't look like anything for you, but if you have the glasses on, it's like real. So there is no possibility to convey the feeling of virtual reality without virtual reality.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a virtual reality film festival in Berlin, and I went there and watched, I don't know if watched is even the right verb, but
experience.
Yeah, that sounds weird too.
I know.
Let's say I watched some movies, and movies isn't the right word either. I think they did call it experiences. And every couple of seconds, I thought, oh, I want to take a picture of that to show it to. I mean, it's the usual reflex you have. I have had for the last 10 years, because I've been carrying first a camera and then my smartphone everywhere, and you can't take a picture.
You can't.
And it's really hard to explain to even to the people who went there with you what you did for the last 10 minutes. I was there with two other people, and we would meet every 20 minutes and try to talk about what we had seen, but it was really hard.
Yeah, and that's our problem in journalism, that virtual reality articles online and print, they don't run very good because people, they don't have the hardware. They say, I'm not too interested in that because, you can't convey it with words or with pictures. And so I hope that people get more interested in virtual reality when they actually experience that. And so this is a good thing to do, this thingy here with the stuff. But I would say it will change everything.
Yeah, but in what way? When I went to that virtual reality film festival, I was there with two people who work in film blogging, or at least spend a lot of time thinking about these developments. And we talked afterwards for about half an hour about our ideas about where this is going. And we had no clue whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing, that all the companies, they think, oh, this is something futuristic, we have to do it because it's the future. And then, for example, IKEA, they just rendered IKEA kitchen in virtual reality. Why is that interesting? Why do I want to experience something in virtual reality where you can do everything that I can experience boring stuff? And that's really funny that people, that the ideas people have about a lot of people have about virtual reality is only about recreating reality. But what you were talking about, like the birdly thing, this is something you can't do in real life, that you fly like a bird and have to flap your wings.
And I think
stuff.
that is actually a brilliant idea, because with especially the early experiences, people would compare that to real life. They would be shown something like you walk through a museum and you can look at pictures, and they would say, I've been to museums and it's a lot better than this boring experience. But flying like a bird is something no human has ever experienced except in their dreams, so they don't know what it's like. So they are universally delighted and impressed, because they say this is probably what it feels like to be a bird.
And that's what
Since
you
you have
want to
nothing
do.
to compare it to.
And that's the interesting thing about virtual reality, to do things you can't do in real life. For example, there's one early demo where everything changed when I looked somewhere else. For example, there are 2 bottles of water there, and when I look there and look back there again, there's 1 bottle missing, for example.
Story of my life.
Or the wall comes nearer, stuff like that. That things change all the time, so it's really trippy, and I think this is the interesting stuff you can do. Of course, it's interesting to visit places where it's difficult to go to, like, I don't know, I'm afraid to go to the Amazonian because of malaria, for example, and you can like have a virtual Amazon tour on a boat or something. But I think the most interesting things are things you can't do in real life, I think.
That's probably what people said about TV, and of course they were right.
Yeah.
I think for one thing, there are the open questions about what happens inside virtual reality experiences, and then there are a lot of open questions about what happens outside. How are we going to change? How is our behavior going to change? What I noticed downstairs until yesterday, there was a virtual, I think, at least it was there on Monday, there was a virtual reality experience downstairs, a pretty boring one, and I noticed that the people who managed that and who would give you your goggles and your headphones...
The trip sitters.
The trip sitters, thank you. That's actually quite an accurate description. That they were less experienced than the people at the virtual reality film festival. And I noticed that because you were already wearing your goggles, and they would hand you the headphones and just do it like with
I can imagine.
It's like interacting with blind people. You can't just hold out the headphone and say, and here are your headphones, because they don't see it. You have to find another mode of interacting with these people.
Of course. And but this is already beginning that, for example, the Gear VR and the HTC Vive, they have a little camera built in, and you can switch. If you, for example, if I'm in VR and I want to have a sip of my coffee, for example, then I switch on the camera. But of course, the reality I see with this camera looks not like, it's not as good as the virtual reality graphics, you know, it's like very weird. You feel like you're the Terminator or something, that you're a robot, because you see the world not three-dimensional, but two-dimensional.
Ah, okay.
And there's like text inserts, and you know what I mean? That you don't see the reality, like in reality, and then you don't know where my cup of coffee is because you don't have any feeling of depth. So it's just the beginning. But what you say is a real problem that I'm always afraid when I do VR that I always lock the door from the inside because I'm a person who's really, I don't know the English word for that, but I'm really afraid when people like, hey, and then I get a heart attack. So this is the thing when I'm in VR, I'm really afraid of people like doing this with me because my heart stops beating.
Another interesting experience for me from the outside was when I tried some virtual reality thing at the university in Switzerland. And then afterwards, another lady did it, and I wanted to take pictures. And since I had already tried that a couple of times, and I knew that she was oblivious to everything around her, I knew that she would have absolutely no problem with me coming quite close. I was about that close, taking pictures, and I know it was like translated to regular real life.
In reality, it would have been rude.
It would have been very rude, but since I knew it wasn't rude in that situation, that was an interesting experience for me as well, because I knew I was non-existent to her. She was in a world of her own.
Yeah, that's something.
And unless I really would have tapped her on the shoulder, she wouldn't notice my presence at all.
I think we need, like future VR headsets need some sort of sonar or radar or ultrasonic or something that when people come or when things come into my vicinity that it warns me and that it opens up the camera view because I think a lot of people are afraid of being pulled out of virtual reality by other people. And there's some stuff going on that with some VR headsets you can link your phone via Bluetooth. So when you get a text or a phone call or something, that it comes up in virtual reality. But I think it's only the beginning. You need something to interact with the real world. And I think there are like mixed reality goggles, like the one from Microsoft, the augmented reality goggles where you mix reality with virtual reality, and I think this is a better way.
I'm quite curious what it will look like, let's say 10 years from now, when people who are inside some virtual reality experience, how are we from the outside going to interact with them? Are they even going to be in public, or is this something that most people will prefer to do at home because they know that no one is going to come too close and, I don't know, steal their wallet while they're distracted? I've no idea. I can easily imagine a future where everyone is doing this in public, and I can just as easily imagine a future where no one is going to do that in public because they don't feel safe enough.
Houses burning down around you. And there are
Will we always be needing trip sitters?
Yeah. I think there are, with the Gear VR, there are, because it's wireless, and they have an app, it's like a virtual cinema, like a Netflix client where I think they want you to use it on a plane or, okay, Netflix is not a good idea on a plane because you need internet access, but you have like virtual cinemas.
Maybe 10 years from now there will be internet even on planes.
I hope. But it should be it's supposed to be used to put your nice space around you. You know, when you're really cramped in second class on a flight, I think it's a good idea to put your VR headset on, and then you have the virtual, like a virtual living room, very luxurious, very huge, and you know, and then you can watch a video or movie on the big screen.
Do you think this would help people who are unafraid in crowded spaces? Do you think they would feel better that way?
Actually, it might, but I can't use virtual reality in open spaces because I told you that because I'm afraid of people trying to interact with me during virtual reality, so I don't use it. And to be honest, have you ever seen a person use this wireless headset, VR headsets in public? Like on a train or on a plane?
I haven't seen it very often anyway, so I don't think that means at this point, I think that doesn't mean anything that I haven't seen it, because I still can count the occasions where I have seen people wearing them at all.
Yeah, that's true. But there must be something in the future to solve this problem. And I think Mark Zuckerberg said that in the future, VR glasses would look like a regular pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses or something. And
I don't know what Ray-Ban sunglasses actually look like. Do they
like
wrap around?
Regular glasses.
Because you would need them to wrap around.
No, I think if you have just regular glasses, I think they are able to fill my whole field of vision. I think that would be enough with my glasses, for example. And perhaps the VR glasses in the future can be like can immerse you in a computer-generated picture, but when somebody comes into your vicinity, it changes its translucency, and then suddenly you can see the reality, like in schemes. You know what I mean? That could happen. That this can suddenly, switch to real-life vision again.
You said something about an hour ago about your experience with women using virtual reality gear, and I wanted to say something about that. So I said let's do that on stage. So you have to say it again.
Yeah, I can do that. Because I give a lot of VR demos. I have the impression that women react more in a more intensive way to virtual reality, but this is just it's not backed up by any scientific clues, but I read that women tend to be more sensitive to simulator sickness, for example. So perhaps it could be. I'm not a fan of saying things like this is typical female, this is typical. I don't think that our brains are fundamentally different, but this is just a observation I made.
I think it's not the female hardware. I realized that when I was up there with a female friend, and she was screaming and very nervous about it, and I realized afterwards when I tried it again that I was actually quite nervous as well, but I was trying to be a lot cooler. So I think the main difference is that for at least some women it's easier to, I don't know, scream in public when they are afraid of something.
Okay.
This would simply be too embarrassing, too uncool for most men to do.
You mean like the roller coaster phenomenon?
It doesn't mean that the actual feeling is a lot different. It just means that you try not to be hysterical in public.
Okay. Yeah, that could be.
And there was this article by Dana Boyd a couple of years ago about the motion sickness thing, and I think the gist of the article was that virtual reality is sexist because it made women, it gave women motion sickness more often than men, but the problem is that women in general get motion sickness in all situations more often than men, so it's actually reality that is sexist that way. It's not specific to virtual reality.
I get sick with virtual reality as well, and people tend to say, you get used to it, but it's nothing about the hardware of the virtual reality hardware. It doesn't have to do anything with the hardware, but it's all the software.
I meant the female hardware, not the virtual reality hardware.
I just wanted to I don't want people to think that virtual reality makes you sick in general. It's just by bad software.
It depends. I noticed that at the Virtual Reality Festival, there was one experience where you could walk through a Van Gogh picture, and I got really sick during that one.
That really makes me sick.
I can't say what it is, what the technical reasons for that are, but I noticed that it was no problem with all the other experiences.
The thing is, there's a problem is that when you have that Van Gogh experience, you walk through there, I think, with the touchpad on the glass, or with a gamepad or something. And if you sit down like we do, and so the thing in your ear, Gleichgewichtssinn, your sense of balance, is sending the brain the message, everything, we are sitting down, nothing moves, but your visual system sees or realizes that you're moving, and this is a mismatch in the brain, and so it makes you sick.
Someone just wrote in the pad that it's a problem of training the brain, but I don't think so, because actually I did try, okay, not that many things, but let's say it's been 10, 15 different VR experiences now, and only one and maybe two of them gave me motion sickness. So I think for the other ones, my brain was already trained enough with no experience at all.
And I'm doing VR since 3 days, nearly every day, and I still get sick. So I think it gets a bit better, but I think if I use a really bad VR software, it is able to make everybody sick. So this is.
I just noticed that I'm glad we are having this conversation in English, because we keep saying VR experience, and
Yeah,
that would be
I know.
really embarrassing in German.
Yeah.
It's, I think we don't notice that it is embarrassing as much because it's in English, but how would we even talk about this in German?
But even in English, I think this word experience is used for everything. It's kind of, user experience, and everything is experience. I think the interesting thing about VR is that most of the experiences are a bit like a movie, and they are a bit like a computer game, and we don't have a name for it. Perhaps you have an idea?
That is one of the questions I want to preserve in this document for the future, that I have no idea how we are even going to talk about this 5 or 10 years from now in German. Virtual reality is a mouthful. It's not better in German, virtuelle Realität, and it doesn't. But this is such an early phase of this whole development that we even lack the words to talk about it, and we lack the means of documenting it, of showing it to other people.
Yeah.
It's still very early.
But what do you think? How will people use virtual reality in 10 years? What's your prognosis?
Basically, I have no idea. At the last time I had this conversation, I said that maybe something with long-distance relationships, but I don't know why I even said that. It's a possibility, but I can't say it's a strong belief of mine that this is going to happen.
So you mean you meet up with someone in virtual reality?
Maybe you are in a long-distance relationship, and maybe people would find it nice to feel some sort of physical presence in the same virtual room. I don't know. When I used Birdly, which was actually hard work, if you want to gain height as a bird, you really have to flap your wings quite hard. I could just as easily see a future where these things are fitness devices. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe something really boring is going to happen. Maybe 10 years from now, only IKEA is having virtual reality kitchens for us to walk in. I don't think so, but I really don't know. I think the only thing that we can take for granted is that porn is going to be a big thing.
Yes, porn is going to be a big thing.
It always is with new media.
It always is, but the funny thing about porn is that it really changes the perspective you watch porn. Like when you watch porn on a 2D screen, it's like you're looking in an aquarium or something, so you're not connected with the people there. It's like a voyeur or something. But with virtual reality, you are inside the action, so it's much more...
Which is bad news for people who like watching.
Yes, and I think it's really stressful, to be honest, because I just said that some parts of your brain take virtual reality for granted, and sometimes I don't want to enact with people. And I think that's the funny thing about virtual reality porn. When I show it to some people, they're not put off by the sexuality, but they're put off by people coming near them. And I've seen a lot of people pulling off their VR headset when the only thing happening is that a person came like in your feel-good radius.
Which is funny and weird, because at the same time you would mind it a lot less if actual real people entered your physical space
Absolutely.
during that time.
Yeah, because you don't see them and you don't sense them. That's interesting. And of course, in the 90s, there was a virtual reality wave in the 90s, and everybody was talking about like teledildonics, that you had these suits where you put your primary sexual organs in or on or something. I don't know. I think they're developing stuff like that. There are a lot of companies that are doing that. But I don't want to do that, to be honest. I'm not... I think it's so technical, and I don't know. But I really think that VR will stay with us. I'm pretty sure it will not, because the first virtual reality wave, it vanished after 3 years or something. But this wave will stay on, and I'm pretty sure that in 10 years, a lot of people just have a virtual reality goggle just where their mouse pad is on their desk or something. There is a virtual reality glass, what sits there, and occasionally they use it, and perhaps they even, because with a perfect virtual reality glass, without you seeing pixels, you can simulate every kind of office setup or like screens. And I could, if I want to work in a nice environment, I can work like in a new Manhattan skyscraper with windows around me and with like 10 screens or something, and I feel like I'm the king of the world or something. And in reality, I'm just sitting in a little dusty thing.
I know that this is a possibility, but do you want it on? I was about to say paper, but of course it isn't. But do you want to read 10 years from now that you believe that this was going to happen? In 2016?
I think that there are some people who enjoy working like this. I'm not, but I'm pretty sure, but I have it right now, so it's not so futuristic, but I think there are a lot of people who just have a virtual reality goggle, sit next to their mouse or something on their desk, and then occasionally there are of course websites which you watch in virtual reality. I think virtual reality is used in journalism as well, because there are some things you can explain much, much more better in virtual reality. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I'm skeptical about that, because there was. Do you remember the hype about this avalanche report about 2 years ago? I think it was in the New York Times, and people on journalism panels kept talking about that for about a year. But it's really a lot of work, and I think there's probably a trend towards the easier to produce and easier to consume little bits of information, and not towards these huge immersive environments that take a whole lot of work and a large team to produce in the first place.
That could be, but if we would be able to like capture situations with 360 video, for example, in 3D, like a soccer match or something, that you just put a camera next to the coach or something, and when you put on your goggles, you really have the feeling like sitting next to the coach, and you can watch the game, or you can look at the coach to your left or something. That would be something I would think a lot of people would do, or a concert where you have the feeling that you're on the stage with your favorite musician or something, or you're sitting in the first line in Republica and you can watch the reactions of the other people. I think this isn't, or do you think it's more convenient to watch the nicely made captured video of a Republica talk, or would it be cool to be immersed in, I don't know.
I think Minecraft is probably a good example for the fact that people are willing to accept really, really horribly bad graphics if it gives them possibilities that other experiences, graphically more advanced experiences, do not give them. So yeah, probably they would prefer the more interactive environment, even though the quality of the graphics is disappointing.
Yeah, but what everybody can write down is that I'm absolutely sure that this VR wave is not going to go away. VR is going to stay.
We already have two things we are sure about. That A, it's not going to go away, and B, there is going to be porn. Is there anything? Is there anything else that is certainty?
I am 100% sure that there will be very well-made social things in VR, because I think besides the Void, I think the most impressive VR demo I've seen is Oculus Toy Box, where you just stand. I think I have a video of that. Just 1 second. Just one more, and one more, and one more. Yes, there we go. Can you see? Yeah. Both of these guys is one actual person, and your head is tracked, and your hands are tracked, but not your whole body. But you really have the feeling that you stand opposite of a real person, and between you.
What do you mean? Both these persons are you?
No.
No. Okay.
But both of these persons.
That would be really weird playing against yourself.
Yeah, that's true. But both of these persons are real people. They are not. This is like a life situation, and you have a table between you with all the toys on it, and you can, because you have hand controllers, you can grab everything, and the first thing I've done in this demo, that I took a thing and threw it on the head of the other person, and I would never do that in real life. And I thought, okay, am I a bit weird because I do this? But if you watch this demo, this is produced by Oculus, they are doing it the whole time, because people are really happy to be in an environment where there's no pain, or that they can do things to each other they can't do in real life. And that might sound aggressive, but it's I don't know why, but this demo is, I did that, I think, for 4 times or something. You can't download it right now. You can only do this with Oculus at their trade shows and stuff. But it's so much fun. And then now a colleague who saw that demo, and he said, okay, I'm going out of journalism, I have to do VR, because this is just so much fun. And so I'm absolutely sure that social VR, and this is why Facebook bought Oculus, that this will be a thing, that because I don't think that, do you think that people in 10 or 20 years that they will still chat, like text-based chat?
Yes, actually I do, because I love text-based things, and I will probably not stop loving them. There are even still people who use IRC. I thought it died out around 2005, but I think so, because it has advantages that other forms of interaction don't have.
I'm 100% with you, but at the moment, for example, people who use WhatsApp, I think it's pretty common now that people use these voice text snippets, and I personally hate that, but it seems that people are looking to things which are not text, because they don't feel, because we feel good with text because we love words, but many people don't.
I would think that it's partly a question of what you grew up with, but it's also a question of media that are, I don't know, closer to your habits, to your preferences. And I think there will probably still be people who like text.
Of course.
I think we have about 10 minutes left, and we should decide, do we want to let people ask questions who didn't already ask those questions in the pad because they forgot to bring any hardware with them, or do you want to talk about drugs and the connection? I think we should probably... There's another microphone.
There's one, yeah.
Hi, thanks. That was very interesting. I actually had my first experience of VR today, and it made me feel absolutely sick. It was up here. It was called Zwischenraum, I think. My whole body started getting really hot, and it was horrible.
Okay.
I was not interested at all in it. But, and I do fly a lot in my dreams, actually. But my question was, what do you think is the risk of VR desensitizing people in real life? Because, you said you hit someone in the head in VR, but then I think that there's a lot of desensitization through not just VR, but computer games. So what do you think will happen in the future? Will we be killing each other outside of the VR game?
Do you want to answer the question, or?
Okay.
Well, the issue of desensitizing is a bit contradictory to latest developments in the video porno chats, where a direct link is set between a device being put in any body hole on the one side and connected to the tokens given by the audience on the other side. You get electrical impulses in your body, so it is resensitizing. Any token, any gift is provoking a body sensation. So it is remodeling market-driven exchanges, but as well relate to the body experience.
I think we will definitely have a lot of discussion about that question. We had it with computer games, with violent computer games. We had it with pornography. We had it with just about everything. And as always, the two parties, the people that say, yes, it will desensitize people, and the others that say there is a cathartic effect and it will lead to them being less violent in the rest of their lives. So I don't think there's going to be a definite answer to that question anytime soon, but we will definitely have to have this discussion again and again with the next technology and again.
I can only say that I didn't have the feeling to hit people in real life after that. But I think I don't think that any media desensitize anyone, but I think with virtual reality there might be a little higher risk, because we just said that something in your subconsciousness believes what it feels, and perhaps. But the thing is that really violent stuff you don't want to do in virtual reality anyway, because it's too intense. So
wait till the 13-year-olds get their VR devices. I don't think there's anything in the world that is too intense for them.
That might be. For me, it is right now. But I think it's always an interesting discussion, and I think with every media which comes up, with the book, with the movie, with comics and everything, there's always this discussion. Oh, will it hurt the children? And we will have that with virtual reality as well. And I think we can just have that discussion, and then, yeah. Another question, perhaps?
It's always quite enlightening when you're on a stage and you have people live writing it down, and they will just write down, didn't get it. It's an educating experience.
Yeah. I think there was one question as well in this area. Okay, no? Okay.
Well, I actually wanted to just carry on with that question from before about desensitization, because there seems to be a big sort of hype about VR journalism at the moment, and I sort of wonder whether or not that would, because people feel that VR journalism puts somebody in the actual situation and makes them realize how bad things are, and whether that could go the same way as CNN, where it's just people just shut off to reality and they want more escapism.
That is a really old argument as well, because when there is a science fiction novel from the 18th century where someone says that someone is going to invent a machine where the king can hear the screams of people he sent to war or something like that, and so he's not going to do it anymore because of this very this experience, because he can share the experience, and that didn't happen. That was 300 years ago. It hasn't happened so far, and I think this is one of these optimistic hopes that most of the time will not.
Amount of time, and then it's sort of.
It's a natural thing to hope for that with every new technology, but I don't think new technologies work that way.
Sorry, I have another question. Do you think that VR could be used to help people overcome phobias, or even to prepare people for death? So sort of simulate a dying experience, for example?
How would you simulate a dying experience? I once died in a dream, and weirdly enough, it was like an old TV set switching off, where you get this line first, and then the line goes down to a point, and then the TV set is switched off. But how would you simulate death? Just everything turns black?
I don't know. I mean, maybe this is something someone will create.
I think there's definitely a lot of potential for the phobia thing. There's this therapy for phantom pain that people feel after amputation of a limb, and there is a easy and low-tech therapy for that, where you just mirror the missing arm so people can see it, the non-existent arm, and it was in a Dr. House episode, maybe you've seen it, and that seems to work pretty well. So if a very low-tech technology like that can help people, I am pretty confident that this very convincing experience and virtual reality can do a lot for people who are afraid of heights or crowded spaces or whatever.
And
giant spiders.
And VR is already used in psychotherapy. VR is already used for treating phobias, like I don't know the English word for it, but when you're afraid of spiders or flying or especially heights, I think it's a good way to desensitize people for that. So it's already used in psychotherapy, but I think that death thing, it's really interesting, but I don't have a clue as well how you will simulate death. But it's interesting.
There is an evident use for traumatic therapy. There is an example of a close friend of mine who was suffering from a recurring nightmare in which he went through the try of abortion of his own body, and only his wife helped him to overcome it by teaching him the technique of lucid dreaming. And only 2 years after his death, I stumbled upon his elder sister telling the story of his mother during her pregnancy with him, climbing up a high ladder and letting herself drop down. So the nightmare was a real memory of pre-birth of the fetus. And this is such a dramatic body impact, and it has, so to say, been set into the body memory over decades and decades. And to cope with it can't ever be sufficient done with pharmaceutical intervention. I think this is the very probably and very useful use of technologies as you have described them. Thank you so much.
I'll just jump in. Oh, well, I've just been told we need to wrap everything up, but that everybody's invited to sort of continue the discussion around the bar or somewhere else in the exhibition. We need to, unfortunately, shut everything down for a moment to do a set change for the next performance that'll happen on the stage. So thank you again so much to Catherine and to Jan Kino, and looking forward to discussing more with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.